Our fifth and final inductee is Fernando Flanagan from the Menlo College class of 2004. A member of the first ever Menlo College men's wrestling team and the first ever wrestler to sign to Menlo College, Fernando Flanagan came to Menlo from nearby San Jose. He had an illustrious career wrestling in the 141-pound weight class. In his 2 seasons in a Menlo singlet, Flanagan wrestled 74 times, amassing nearly 50 victories. Fernando capped his brilliant career with a second-place finish at regionals and an All-American showing at the 2004 NAIA Nationals, where he placed third in the 141 bracket. That season, Fernando set the single-season record for takedowns, reversals, and victories by major decision, and he graduated as the all-time leader in takedowns and victories by major decision. Following his time at Menlo, Fernando went on to coach wrestling at Pioneer High School in San Jose. Since the founding of the wrestling program in 2001, Menlo has taken leaps and bounds in the world of NAIA wrestling, and it all started thanks to the brilliant achievements of founding members like Fernando. Fernando is the 4th men's wrestler inducted into the Menlo College Athletics Hall of Fame, and the first since James Gizar in 2019. Please welcome to the stage 2022 Menlo College Hall of Fame inductee, Fernando Flanagan.
Okay, as I understand it tonight, there's 2 rules. Keep it under 5 minutes, and don't talk about that one night in the dorm room. To be honest, Coach, after I read those 2 rules, I just swiped left. If there are other rules I break, let me know. All right? So, in an effort to keep it under 5 minutes.
Good boy.
All right. As Coach mentioned earlier, I was the first wrestler signed to Menlo College. And how can I resist, Coach? After that recruitment trip, he took me to the Japanese restaurant across the street, the Gombe restaurant with Coach DeMiles, UPS truck parked in the red zone. I got to order anything I want. Shrimp tempura, miso soup, you name it. Coach, honestly, you didn't have to do all that. You had me at hello. Coach, so when we started the program here at Menlo, Coach will tell you he sold his soul to the devil. He brought in all these wrestlers from the junior college circuit, all these great wrestlers, probably someone with criminal records, I'm sure, and had the great idea to slam them all into the O'Brien dorm. All of us. What could go wrong? Well, I know I got to keep it under 5 minutes, and I can't talk about the dorm room, so I'm going to move on. All right. So, let's see, where was that? Coach, I don't know if you know this. My senior year, I had headgear wrapped up with tape. We used to be able to tape it up back then. You can't do that now. And I wrote all sorts of things on it that I thought I would need to hear in the middle of a match. You know, get up, don't be weak. You know, what are you doing this for? And WWCD. What would Coach do? And I'd be able to rip off my headgear in the middle of any match, and I'd be able to quickly look at that, you know, or call timeout and look at that. And Coach, we had our battles over the time, and sometimes I didn't like you, but I think I always respected you. And I coached about 15 years after I graduated from here, and not a season went by where I didn't repeat one of your sayings, or one of your lectures, or one of your speeches. Every time I coached, I had you with me. You were the most influential person in my wrestling career. You kept me on my path. Thank you, Coach. I wouldn't feel right talking about Coach Spataro without thanking Coach Ruben Tamayo. All smiles to Mile. I don't know if you had the same relationship with all the wrestlers, Coach, but I'd like to think that ours was special. All right? Every time he was in the room, he lit it up. 2 quick stories. One of them, I remember running. This was when you guys were down at Fullerton and you decided to leave me behind to take James to wrestle Juan Mora. Great idea. So for you guys to know, James had already lost to Juan twice, and I had beaten him twice. But James is the national champion. Anyway, so I'm running. I'm on my own running, and there's Gamal in his UPS truck, and he pulls over. I don't think he pulled over. He just stopped in the middle of Valparaiso. He doesn't pay the tickets. And why didn't Coach take you? I don't know. And we just laughed. We had the biggest laugh about it. I still remember that, just thinking that when I had that conversation with Coach Tamal, that made it okay with me that you didn't take me. I was like, you know what? That was worth it. And second story with Tamal was at regional senior year when I got a wrestle Gizar in the finals. And Coach pulls me into the bathroom. He's like, hey, this is how Juan Moore keeps beating Gizar. You gotta do this. And as he's showing me all these positions and whatever, and in walks James. And just right away, everyone just stops and we, like deer in headlights. And I can't, we got kids here, so I'm not gonna tell you what James said. But Coach, I knew you were in my corner that night. Thank you, Coach. Coach Mom. Of course, the most influential person in my life, I want to thank my father. He's just the man. If you'd ever met him, you'd agree. When I was in 6th grade, I used to love wrestling anybody who walked through the door. And I don't mean wrestling like we wrestle. I mean like just WWF and whatever AC Slater was doing. That's what I wanted to do. And Grandpa, we call him Grandpa now because he's got so many grandkids. He said, you'd be a great wrestler. And he didn't, I don't think he knows what path he put me on when he said that. But he said it a couple more times, and I don't know why he said it, because he didn't know anything about wrestling. But I found the wrestling room in high school, and I never left the mat. There was my, the year before, or the summer before my senior year, where I had broken my arm on a motorcycle I wasn't supposed to be riding. So I had to have surgery on that, and a second surgery on a meniscus that I'd been wrestling 2 years on. And I don't think anyone expected much of me that final year. And I remember shooting hoops with Grandpa in the pool, telling him, hey, I think I'm done. I don't think I need to wrestle anymore, Dad. I'm satisfied. I'm okay. And he supported me. He said, hey, you do what you need to do, but you make sure you go back to school and get your degree. There's no way I was going to come back to campus here and walk around with my head up and not be on the wrestling team. That was the last time I ever thought about not wrestling. Grandpa, you're the man.
Thanks, man.
I'll quickly say thanks to my mother, who isn't, for your safety and ours, isn't here tonight. All right? If you knew what kind of family I came from, I have 5 siblings and a foster brother, and we have 15 grandchildren. Out of the 6 siblings, we're all college graduates, all married. Mom did that. With Dad's help, Mom put that family together. So she's not here, but I love you, Mom. I do have a large family, and I can't single all of you out, and you're not all here tonight, so I won't. But I would be in a lot of trouble if I don't single out my sister Isabel. She was my fiercest competition growing up. She was my first coach. She didn't know how to wrestle, but she knew how to kick my butt. And she did. She was also my greatest roommate. I got a couple other roommates in this room, so you might want to sneak out after that, but thanks, Rumi. And you're my biggest sister. I love you, Tia Nana. Let's see. Teammates. Like I said, Coach, you put one hell of a team together. And I had some great teammates. I had some great friends here. I would say I'd like to single out my immediate Iron Man circle. There was Frankie Alvarez, there was James Gizar, there was Jose and Pablo Sanchez, and later on, a couple years later, showed up Alfonso Paez, and you guys were all amazing. I learned so much wrestling you guys every day and the battles that we had. One of those teammates, partner, Alfonso, I've told you this before. I wasn't supposed to get choked up. I was doing so good. Alfonso? We used to just wrestle our asses off. And every time he beat me or I beat him, we'd get up, we'd flex over each other.
Got it, Conrad, let's go.
I wouldn't be inducted today if it wasn't for you in my circle. Thanks. All right. Last but not least, this should be easier. My family, my wife, and my kids. This should go great. After I graduated here, I coached for about 15 years. Somebody let me in the room. Mike Medlock, he's here somewhere. He gave me a coaching job, and then he stepped aside to let me take it over after a couple years. And I always appreciated him for that. He said he'd stay. He tried to keep out of the room because he was head coach. After I took over, he was still head coach, and the kids knew him as that, so he decided not to come around for a little bit. And that was probably a good idea, Coach. Mike, wherever you are, I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you, Mike. But as I coached all those years, I had a wife, and I had kids. And my wife supported me. She, as she said, we're paying daycare for you to follow your hobby. I hope you enjoy your hobby. And it's your hobby until it starts paying you. It's your hobby, Fernando. And she was right. But she did everything. She changed her work schedule. She did everything to let me follow my hobby for as long as I could. And Gato, you're amazing. My wife also came with my stepdaughter Layla. When I first started dating my wife, Layla was in the 2nd grade, I believe, and I was responsible for picking her up after work and watching her. So she'd race back with me to practice every day, and I didn't know it. I don't think anyone else knew it, but she was becoming a wrestler. You know, she was going in that room every day. She was becoming a coach. I'm sorry. She tried wrestling. It was little. You were good too, Layla. But she was there every day with me, and she loved coaching with me, and I loved having her. And I remember that first tournament, I didn't think she'd want to go, and of course she wants to go. And we went to the Harbor tournament, and she was just huge help. Following it, let me know, this guy's wrestling, he's wrestling mat number 3, and she continued doing that for the next 10 years, however long it took her to graduate high school. She went to the high school I coached at, she was my team manager, and she was in all my team pictures, and Layla, I love you. You saw a couple pictures of my kids in singlets. The hope is one day they'll wrestle. They don't show the same passion that I have for it, but I'm sure they'll get there. My daughter Valentina is an amazing soccer player, and you'll probably see her on the U.S. women's team one day. Probably not wrestling. My 2 boys, I think I'm going to be able to convince them. Right now they're playing baseball, but I think I'll be able to convince them, especially with your help, Layla. My last goal, Layla, I want you to know that I expect one day that you're going to be my coach, my assistant coach again, hopefully coaching your kids or your siblings. That's it. Thank you all for being here tonight.